Episode 3 of Daredevil Born Again is now on Disney Plus. We got some moments that happened and some pretty big ones, as well as some clues that this episode and the last 3 episodes left behind, which of course this episode is going to contain spoilers, so if you have not been watching Daredevil Born Again, don't watch this video because it's going to contain spoilers, and unfortunately every episode of this show that I'm going to review is going to be filled with spoilers. Now the first clue I do want to mention is that there's this corrupt cop named Powell who arrests Hector for trying to protect this guy from getting killed in the subway. And before that fight happens, you see that Powell is holding up Matt on the wall and you see a Punisher tattoo on his wrist. And he becomes kind of important in this episode because he's taken to trial where he has to explain how he knows Hector and what happened in the subway. And it's not just him being a corrupted cop, because there are other corrupted cops in this courtroom with a Punisher tattoo on them. So that kind of tells me that there's some kind of like gang that likes to use the Punisher tattoo on them, meaning that maybe Frank Castle is leading this group, or if they're doing this gang without Frank Castle's permission, because if that's the case, that's gonna make him really mad. So I really don't know which is the case, but what we do know is that these people were kind of trying to keep Hector in prison while Matt is trying to help him get out of prison, while these corrupted Punisher cops are trying to think of ways to try to keep Hector locked up, while they're also talking to Nicky Torres to convince him that he's not getting information from them, which makes it more tough because Nicky Torres is the one that Hector saved in the subway before one of the corrupted cops gets killed by a train. So maybe they are like this corrupted gang that is using Frank Castle's Punisher logo for the wrong reasons, so we'll have to see what happens. And unfortunately, after Hector gets released from prison, someone in a Punisher costume kills him, which we really don't know if it's Frank Castle or not because we don't see his face, we just see the Punisher symbol on his chest. So it could be either Frank or someone else that's trying to be like the Punisher. And that was really sad to see him go because it showed that Hector is a good guy that wants to help people. He just got himself in trouble with the wrong people. Which one thing I gotta mention is that when this episode starts, you get like one scene where Hector is talking to Matt about this bird that likes to make this whistling sound and he likes listening to it, and unfortunately that becomes a theme that would play in the credits of this episode, which makes it very emotional. And what makes it more emotional is that the actor that played Hector, Camar de los Reyes, sadly passed away after they filmed all of his scenes in the show. Now let's talk about Matt for a second, because he does some pretty drastic stuff just to prove that Hector is innocent by talking to Powell about what happened in the train station and trying to get Torres to confess. But when none of that works, Matt has to do something drastic, crazy, and stupid by taking Hector's white tiger costume, revealing it to everyone in the courtroom, getting him to confess that he's the white tiger, which was crazy and a little out of nowhere, but it worked because there are people that Hector saved that are talking about how he saved those people, like one involving a car on fire, and gratefully they were all defending him, and there were a lot more people that were defending Hector as well, which causes the jury to think about it for a while and decide that he's not guilty for his crimes, which causes a lot of people to talk about him more, especially in the BB Urich interviews of people talking about him, which I didn't get a chance to mention this in my review for episodes 1 and 2. I do actually like that we're seeing interviews of people in Hell's Kitchen talking about either Daredevil or the Kingpin. It kind of makes Hell's Kitchen itself feel like a character. It doesn't feel like a regular dark city that the characters would live in. But even with all of that, with all of Matt's actions in this episode and in the last 2 episodes, you can already tell that he's affected by what happened to Foggy and Wilson Fisk Fisk becoming mayor. While Matt feels like that he wants to let the devil out, he wants to take out all of his emotions and anger towards Fisk, which would cause Matt to do something that he might regret. But of course, after Hector gets released, Wilson Fisk sees that on the news and he doesn't like that because he made a law about no vigilantes running around in Hell's Kitchen, which could also show that maybe he's the one that hired those corrupted Punisher cops who try to keep Hector in prison. Maybe he hired one of them to kill him in the end of this episode, because as of right now, we don't know. We don't know if this gang is on their own or Frank Castle is leading them, so we'll have to see what happens in the next few episodes. And you can also tell that Fisk is kinda keeping some secrets from the public and his wife Vanessa, who he's been having some issues with, mostly because of the events that he went through in shows like Echo and Hawkeye, because you would get one close-up of Fisk's hand and you would see that his knuckles are scarred up and bleeding, meaning that he must be doing something horrible when no one is watching. Now with some of the other characters, I'm still trying to get to know of when the later episodes happen, like BB Urich, which I already mentioned in my last video, so I'm still waiting to see how these characters are developed throughout this season, and I'm curious to see how those characters become later on in the show. So guys, those are my thoughts on this episode of Daredevil Born Again. If you have watched it, what did you think about it? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you like this video and you want to see me review more episodes of Daredevil until this season's over, then please leave a like and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss a thing, because it helps my channel grow. Hit the notification bell so you know what other videos I'm posting. Follow me on Facebook and Instagram. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you in the next one.